And as promised now, I want to go to Andrew Giuliani now, Rudy Giuliani's son. And Andrew, I appreciate your taking the time. So let me just start here. Obviously, federal investigation into your father. It's obviously serious. It escalated into execution of a warrant, which was an extraordinary thing and a rare thing. You heard Evan say that it could take months for them to make a charging decision. How concerned are you that your father could be charged?
I'm not concerned at all because I think this is the continued politicization of the Justice Department. I will even say the corruption of the Justice Department. The fact that there's privileged material from a former president of the United States and his lawyer there, and they now have access on it, is very scary. And I think any American, whether you're red or blue, if you believe in the red, white, and blue, you should be really, really scared and afraid of what's going on here.
The thing is, of course, to get the warrant that they got, as you know, Andrew, takes a lot, right? You have to have...
Who signed the warrant, Aaron? I just want to know who signed the warrant.
The Justice Department and a federal judge.
The judge. Who appointed the judge?
So you think the judge is corrupt because of who appointed them?
What I will say is there has been a tradition, I would say tradition, since Eric Holder became the Attorney General, we have seen the Justice Department continually get politicized. And what I've seen now is you have an Obama-appointed judge who has signed this warrant where no other judge would sign this warrant. I think you're going to see tonight exactly how absurd this was.
You have proof that no other judge would sign the warrant?
I don't have any proof, but do you have proof that any other judge would sign the warrant?
Well, I do have a faith in our system, and I trust the Trump judges who turned down effort after effort by your father and the president to overturn election results in states across this country. Many of those were Trump-appointed judges.
I read over 200 affidavits. That's all I will say about that. But the truth is, I am shocked now that the FBI would do this when my father and Bob Costello, his lawyer, were actually cooperating with them. Why would they do this at a time when John Kerry, when there were questions going on about him right there? Why would they do that?
So let me ask you, though, because this is important.
Yes.
They go through this information that they have. And I understand you're going to fight them every step of the way. But just so people understand, the warrant is about a specific thing, right? Registering as a foreign lobbyist. However, anything that they find that could possibly be criminal in their search of these electronic communications, there is no crime that is protected by attorney-client privilege, right? So a crime would go to prosecutors. So this is opening Pandora's box, right?
Basically, I think what you're trying to allude to is, are there any crimes that my father may have committed?
Are you worried about that? You may not even know. I'm not presuming you know everything your father did or didn't do, but you got to be worried.
Well, when I think of Rudy Giuliani, I think of one of the greatest New Yorkers in the history of our country, in the history of our state and our city. I mean, this is the greatest mayor in the history of New York. The reason why New York is somewhat safe right now is because of Rudy Giuliani's policies. And by the way, he's also the greatest U.S. attorney in the history of the Southern District. So if you're asking me if Rudy Giuliani is a man of integrity, I say yes.
So let me ask you about that U.S. office, attorney's office that you mentioned. That very office that he led is now investigating him. Okay, so those are people who work for him that they're investigating. They have found grounds to investigate. What has his reaction been to that?
I think it's the same thing that I said right at the top of the show, which is this is the continued corruption of the Justice Department. I believe the Justice Department should be independent of politics. When the Justice Department treats people who are related in any capacity to Donald Trump different than they're related to a President Obama or a President Biden, we see major issues right there. All of the cases that have come from the Justice Department recently have been on Republicans. What about James Clapper? What about John Brennan? I know they come on your station a lot. Why were not there lies to Congress? Why didn't the Justice Department look into them?
So let me just tell you, I will just make one point here, Andrew, that I think is important. The Hunter Biden investigation is ongoing. It's being led by an attorney appointed by President Trump.
I didn't mention Hunter.
I know, but I'm just saying, you said only Republicans, and so I'm just making a point that the current president's son is being investigated, and nobody's tried to stop it, and being investigated by someone appointed by your father. I just think it's an important point to make when you try to say it's only Republicans.
No, so it's a good point. And actually, I think it actually is great in terms of what I want to talk about. So the FBI did come into my father's house yesterday morning, and they wanted devices. They took 2 phones. They took an iPad. They did not take a laptop. And that laptop was Hunter Biden's former laptop. Why would they not take that when ultimately they knew if there is an investigation going on? Does that not tell you that the Justice Department is completely corrupted?
No. And I will say it's an active investigation. I don't think that
It is
you can
active.
compare the
So why
timeline
wouldn't
of
you
one
want material?
investigation to another. That's a completely false premise.
So if that's the case, then why wouldn't you want material that would help that investigation?
So again, it's an ongoing
You
investigation.
just ignore
I
it?
don't know what they're going to do or not do.
You would ignore
Right? No, I'm
the
simply
material?
saying
If
it's an active
ongoing,
investigation
wouldn't you
being
ignore it?
led by an attorney appointed
understand.
by President Trump into the current president's
I
son,
get
and he
it.
hasn't
It's
done anything to
active.
stop it. But to your point about
You're right,
politically,
Erin, but it's active.
yes, it is active.
It's active. But if it is active and there's information that could help solve the investigation,
Then I would assume that
why
they're
wouldn't
going
you
to get that
information?
information. There's nothing to say that they wouldn't.
It's there.
Let me
It's
ask
right
you
there. Why
something.
wouldn't you
Let
take
me
it?
ask you something
Okay.
important about your
Please.
claims of political motivation. President
Yes.
Biden was asked today. I played part of this, but he was asked about it today, right?
Yeah.
Whether he had any heads
And
up
he gave his
about the
word.
raid. Okay, let me just play more of
gave
what
his
he
word.
said for you, Andrew.
Okay.
I give him my word I was not. I made a pledge. I would not interfere in any way, order, or try to stop any investigation the Justice Department had underway. I learned about that last night when the rest of the world learned about it. My word. I had no idea this was underway.
Do you have any reason to not take him at his word, Andrew?
The same guy who plagiarized basically his speech in 1988? Yes, I do. I don't trust his word.
Okay.
That's all
Again,
I'd say.
I'll just make the point again, right? That his son's under investigation. He's done nothing to stop it.
So you don't think he has the motive to actually intervene in that investigation if his son is under investigation?
He may, but he hasn't done it. And it would be the wrong
Motive
thing
is
to
there.
do, and he's not going to do it.
And
he
I
hasn't
know-
even tried to change the attorney. I know this conversation is about your
I know.
father. They're two separate things, right? I brought up
But
the
you
point
brought
for a
it-
very
but you brought up
specific
Joe
reason.
Biden. But you brought up
I
Joe
did. I
Biden.
brought it up very
You did.
specifically
And so
to talk
I wanna
about
go in that direction if
politicization.
you want to talk about it. Yeah, no, I think it has been politicized. So do I trust that Joe Biden gave a 7-second media clip and that his word is good on it? No, I don't. And I look at the history of his word and I look at how he's lied. I don't trust also that he didn't know what Hunter Biden was doing in other parts of the world while he was vice president. That's my opinion on it. I think a lot of Americans feel the same way that I do.
So let me ask you about the situation your father's in from something Michael Cohen said. He obviously was
Sure.
Trump's personal attorney before your father.
Another
and
guy I trust very well.
He served time for things that he did while working
Right.
for the former president when
Yeah.
he was at the Trump org. And Michael Cohen predicts that your father would flip on Trump. Let me just play it for you.
I think Rudy knows that he has trouble. I think Donald understands that Rudy will provide whatever information that he has to the SDNY because Rudy has no interest in going to prison and spending the golden years of his life behind bars. That I'm certain of.
So would your father turn on Trump to protect himself if that's what it takes?
I can't believe I'm answering something from Michael Cohen. I mean, no, I mean, there is, I don't really know how to respond to this because it's a theoretical, my father represented the president in good faith and I don't, this is all theoretical. If there was something that illegal that happened, there's nothing illegal that happened.
Well,
So,
even on the registering as a foreign lobbyist, just to make the point, right? I've made the point that anything else they find they could bring, but on that alone, what the warrant was for, right? You could have up to 5 years in prison. I mean, that's 5 years in prison for that charge that they have a warrant for alone. So, I mean, it's a legitimate question. If your dad's looking, if they're able to charge, and they haven't, investigation is to the point where they charge, 5 years in prison, or tell me a few more details here about the former president.
Well, what I would say is I do wonder if Hunter Biden's going to be charged with some with the FARA allegations that are out there against him. So in terms of that, that's where I wonder. I'm very confident my dad did everything that he did on the up and up. So that's where I'll leave it there. I trust him. I trust his relationship with the president. And I know he's a man of integrity when it comes to his representation of the 45th president of the United States.